Hello, I'm Rebecca Bregman. This is my interview with an industry leader all about implementing AI in the real world. So, I interviewed Julian Alexander. He's a strategy director at a New York ad agency, and he works with gaming and consumer tech brands. He asked not to be recorded and didn't want specific clients or brands named. So, this is based on notes from our conversation. His goal was to bring AI into the agency without hurting the quality of work that his clients are paying for. So overall, he was using AI generated visuals to cut the time spent that he and his employees were spending pitching ideas and campaigns to clients. So his approach was to use AI only for the rough drafts, this early stage work. He used Midjourney and Adobe Firefly for early images. He used Runway for rough videos. He used ChatGPT and Claude for the first draft of copy and research. He deliberately kept AI away from the finished work because these tools are quick and cheap at rough drafts, but they're kind of weak at polish. So the craft was left for the creatives, exactly what the clients are paying for. His challenges, most of his problems had nothing to do with the technology. The first was really about his own team. He checked that the data and tech were ready, but he didn't really prepare people for the change and admits he'd do that part differently. When you put an image tool in front of an art director, a lot of them read it as, we're figuring out how to need fewer of you. So they quietly didn't use it. The second challenge was that a gaming client found out AI imagery had been used and was unhappy, even though nothing was published. Their audience can spot AI art instantly, and gamers tend to be hostile to it, so using it at all was the big problem. The third challenge was the most useful. His rule was that AI for internal pitching, not published work. But under deadline pressure, a good enough draft was sometimes tempting to push straight through, so the line started to slip, and he had to keep reinforcing to his team that this was only for early stage work. From that, he had three lessons. One, if you set a rule, build something that enforces it. Saying it once doesn't survive a Friday deadline. So he added a sign off step, which basically created a watermark for all concept files, which kept them as concept only. The second lesson is that clients react the moment they find out, not when something goes wrong. So now he tells them upfront where AI is and isn't being used so that they can set the boundary early on in the relationship or the project. The third lesson is that getting people on board was about how he explained it, not the tool itself. My recommendations after my interview with Julian is that the big takeaway is that almost every real problem was about people, not technology. The tools worked. So, what I'd recommend to anyone doing is something similar. Start small, where it's cheap and low risk. So, whatever's costing you the most and is the safest change, that's what I would recommend. Julian only used AI for the repetitive early work. He kept it in house with a person checking everything before it reached the client. That's how he got the time savings without the legal or PR risk. Find that one spot instead of changing everything at once. The second recommendation is get your files organized first. Before the tools can make anything useful, his team had to dig through old campaigns, brand guidelines, old briefs, and the entire asset library for the right references. And a lot of these files were untagged or they were buried in old drives that hadn't been touched or organized for a long time. He said this cost serious time and it would be far worse at a bigger company. If you feed the tool messy or generic material, you get messy generic drafts back. And this was extremely important as they were creating creative assets and iterations of potential campaigns. The next one is, for leaders, AI is savings, but to everyone else, it was interpreted as layoffs. So the big recommendation is to explain any integration of AI as help, not financial savings for the company. Julian's biggest mistake was selling it as efficiency because staff heard layoffs. But once he talked about it as taking the repetitive grind off their plates, which freed them up for the parts they actually cared about, he saw people relaxed. The last recommendation is don't trust the rules, instead, build checks. So just saying concepts only didn't really hold up. He had to create a sign off step and watermarked files. So, whatever line you set, you have to back it with something that survives a deadline. You have to tell clients before they find out. People react badly to discovering that AI was used even when nothing went wrong. So you have to bring it up yourself in week one on your terms. Don't only measure speed. Julian nearly ended up making fast, cheap, worse work while the numbers looked great. He only noticed when a campaign fell flat. So he paired the speed number with a quality and brand fit measure. If I had to sum up the whole interview, I think I would say that, across every step, the toughest obstacles were definitely the people, his employees and his clients, and not actually using the technology because I was able to identify the right tool for that specific step in the process of creative asset generation. Thank you.